So welcome to the Tech Savvy Professor Podcast, to faculty who love to teach and love to make it a part of their work. I'd like to introduce myself first. Dr. Eric Perry. I am currently a faculty member for Southern New Hampshire University and teach in multiple formats as a counselor educator. And my co-host is Dr. Marty Gencius.
Yeah, I'm Marty, and I work at Kent State University and teach in the counseling program, but teach a variety of courses, but sort of have this love for technology that started when I first became an academic. Well, even before I became an academic. So I'm glad to be doing this podcast. It's always something I thought I wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a passion of mine as well for a long time. I've always been, into the tech end of things. And I think teaching has allowed me to embrace a lot of that. And also in my personal life, I just am a huge fan of anything and everything that comes out. And what's interesting, we've talked about several times that, I'm more of a PC guy and have been for some time. And you are more of a Mac user, right?
Yeah, I have been a Mac user since about 2005, and prior to that, I was all PC. So I did the switch back then, and now I've pretty much do everything Mac, but I've had to switch back and do some PC work recently because there's some programs that only run best for my research on PC. So I went out and bought a Surface a while ago and about a year ago, and have been using both platforms. But the Mac platform is one that I pick up when I walk out of the door.
Right. And then, I think it'll provide us with a really nice, kind of back and forth, because I see our users primarily as sitting in one of those two camps. And talking about our typical listener, I think anyone who's interested in adopting any kind of technology for any kind of need would really find some use here. The topics that we plan to talk about include everything from just day-to-day task management, which is kind of a topic for us today, and then the more detailed and specific topics related to serving as a counselor, educator, or professor.
Yeah, we're going to try and keep the show short because we could go on hours and hours in talking about technology, but for each show. But maybe this first show will be a little bit longer because we're introducing. But we spoke about keeping the show around 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And the goal of the show is just to kind of add one app or one tip, or one app from the Mac side, one app from the PC side, or tips about using technology and how to integrate it into your work. And do that for each show. So we're hoping, I think, that this could be a quick show to listen to on the way to work or on the way home from work if people wanted to do that. So not long, deep discussions.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a really great point to make, too. This is really something quick and easy that you can grab on your way to work with a cup of coffee and maybe help improve your day.
So, Eric, why don't you introduce a little bit more about yourself? I'm interested in how did you get started with technology and some of your work experiences, and what are you doing now in tech?
Sure. I have a background as an instructional designer and curriculum developer. So I've worked with a lot of learning management systems and course development for traditional hybrid and online coursework. Really started, I was a classroom trainer for background investigators, and we decided that we were going to move the training at least partially online. This was while I was pursuing my master's as a counseling student. As I moved into my professional identity and moved into being a counselor, that technology experience really carried with me. So currently I serve as the social media coordinator and webmaster for ACES, as well as teaching primarily online and hybrid coursework through Southern New Hampshire University. I still do quite a bit of instructional design and curriculum development as well, which involves, some pretty heavy technology use. So what about you, Marty?
I had a very strange background in developing technology because I think my beginnings were back in 1976, 1977. So You know that part during 2001 where Hal, the massive computer, starts to talk about where he was born and where he started. And he says, I was born at the University of Illinois Computer Educational Research Lab. Well, part of my work as an undergraduate was to go over to Searle, where Hal was born, and work on the large card printers because we were running cards through a large computer to run a Fortran program on doing data analysis. So I go back to the large mainframes, and then after that, kind of jumped into technology when I was working in radio for a while. And we had a person who was responsible for getting all the bills out on one day of the month. And I think she was a little too hungover. She said she had the flu. But my guess is that, knowing her history, she was just a little too ripe that day to come to work. So they said, well, you've got a master's degree. You can go figure out the PC. So I wound up figuring out the billing stuff, and I've fell in love with computers as a way to kind of work my mind logically. And since then, I came into the counseling profession and counselor education profession and started to look for connections with technology and with computing, technology and counseling. And started doing things like introducing listservs. I had been doing some listserv in my private, in personal work. I was interested in listservs and what were like IRC chats, and I forget what they called them. They were the old sort of asynchronous newsrooms type of things. And so started that with the profession. And, sort of once you do one new thing, then folks start asking you what the next thing is. And so my career has been around going from one new technology to another. So that include website development, which I mainly did by backwards engineering other people's websites with HTML code. Doing an online journal. I worked with another faculty member, and we did one of the first online journals. Podcasts, of course, with Counselor Audio Source back in 2006, and then doing some virtual reality stuff in Second Life in terms of training in the counseling area. And right now, my passion is really beginning about what we're talking today, which is about productivity and how you can use technology to improve productivity.
Right, which I think is great. I mean, I know a lot of the conversation has been around, in faculty circles lately, that the expectations on faculty members have just steadily increased. We're involved in so much more, and particularly those pursuing tenure as well. Those requirements are just stacking on top of each other. And we know there's some tools that can really be helpful in managing that process. So I think it's a great topic to start off with this week.
Well, I like to, one of the things that I was doing a lot of PC work up until 2005 and then got tired. That was when we were dealing with the brass of a whole bunch of viruses, and, it was very clunky trying to deal with them. I know PCs have gotten much better at that. But I was turning on my machine and waiting for an hour while the virus checker was updating everything. And that was frustrating for me. And there was a piece of podcasting that was done that you can only do with a Mac. And so that's when I switched over. But what I like about it now for me is, and I don't know this as well on the PC side, so this might be on the PC side, so I forgive it if I'm sounding like a fanboy. But what I really like is everything's integrated for me. So I can find an app that works on my watch, that works on my phone, that works on my tablet, and also works on my PC, and everything gets synced. So some of the things I'll talk about are about that ecosystem where if I change it on my phone, it will change on my watch and change on whatever computer or computing device I'm using. And I really cherish that because I don't want to have to think about which list it's on and where to find it. So.
Sure. And I think you have to be more intentional on the PC side. There's definitely more available. Windows is definitely playing nicer now with Android than they have in the past. So there's a lot that we can look at that, is intended for either your device or your PC or mobile device, or that's really integrates well with other systems. There are even cross-platform apps that will let you use both PC and Mac. But you have to be really intentional about how you select those, particularly on the PC side.
Yeah, I think in my effort to try and rein in my productivity and not forget stuff and get things done on time and not trying to, to avoid feeling the guilt of productivity, I think I have purchased every to-do app that is, a to-do list that is out there. A new one comes up and it's like, I don't know, it's like nectar to me. It's, I just want to run and get it, and I get it. And it's sort of like, yeah, okay, I got another one. It's still, there's a core issue with how I think about my workflow that I need to address. The app is not going to do it for me. But I'm curious, which ones do you have for suggestion today?
So, and I should probably mention too, since you mentioned it right at the jump, I'm always looking for the free thing. I always check my open sources first, particularly because, I have a couple of kids at home and, I want a solution that's simple and free, but you do often lose features that way. So it can be really challenging to find apps that are going to encompass the things you really want and need without paying that additional upcharge. The positive about task management apps in this case is they're really affordable. The one that I really like the most at this point is the Gtasks to-do list app, particularly for those functions that you mentioned earlier. It integrates really well with the Google Suite. So if you're someone who uses those Google tools a lot, the Gtasks app itself is going to look really familiar to you. It does work across platforms. Seems to work really well with the Android interface if you're using an Android phone, Android watch. Also plays really nicely with Windows systems. And it's got those features that you really want in terms of task management without the premium cost, right? So you're able to prioritize your tasks, time your tasks, share those and collaborate. Google's done a really good job at that lately. My one kind of criticism, I guess you would say, of the app is that it's a Google app, right? So if you're not really familiar with that layout and that interface, it can feel a little bit clunky getting started. One that's a little bit more user-friendly and still has those features, I think, is the AnyDo app. For anybody who's tried that out, it is really pretty. The interface is really easy to use, and it's actually a really encouraging app. It sends you kind of friendly reminders and will even tell you it believes in you from time to time. Aside from that, it really has those features that you want in creating and prioritizing your apps, and has a color scheme that helps you code those particular tasks in a way that's really meaningful. There's also a few graphic options for you to look at your tasks in different chart formats, which I think is really, really nice. So those are really my big ones at this point.
Yeah, it sends you encouraging statements and reminds you. That's like the perfect partner, You should marry it, not actually use the app.
Yeah, it does. It's really encouraging. It says, we believe in you and you can complete this task. And I think you get a welcome email from the team that's all of them kind of smiling and being really encouraging for you. So I don't mind the pick-me-up at all.
Now, is AnyDo cross-platform? Do you know?
It is, yeah. And I've tested it on both Windows and Android. I have not tested it on the Mac side. But it does promote being cross-platform. It works really well. It looks good both on PC, on the desktop app that you can use, as well as the mobile app. So it is, a both mobile and desktop interfaces that you can use. It syncs well, and you can actually use it with TickTick. If anybody's used TickTick before, it integrates with that as well.
When you were talking about how free is good, I understand that for a lot of listeners. I also think that you've got to support these developers. So if you're using AnyDo, I don't know, I have it. I'm sure its cost is probably $2.99 at the most. If it's not a free app, I'll have to look into that from the Mac end.
Well, it's $2.99 a month for the premium features, and it gives you more in terms of themes. It'll give you location-based reminders, and it will help you colorize your tasks a little bit better. Right. So there's definitely some features there for a really nominal cost, right? A little less than a Happy Meal a month. You can get all those premium features you're looking for.
As again, I appreciate the ability to support developers. Many of them have gone to this subscription model. I kind of like the pay it once and you've got it model versus the subscription model there that, after a year, you wind up paying more than you anticipated as part of the premium features if you wanted the premium features. However, a lot of these things you can get by without the premium features. I think I will pay for apps generally, but I definitely will pay for apps when I get nag ads and things like that pop up in the middle of my work with the app that's reminding me to go pick up a Yahtzee app or something like that. Those things drive me nuts. So it's like, I'll pay it just to not be nagged, especially if it's a one-off,
Right. Yeah. Just leave me alone. And I think AnyDo does well with that. That's really a minimalist approach to ads, even in the free version. I really liked Wunderlist, and I know a lot of people like that as well. It's a pretty popular app. In terms of cost, it's fairly nominal. I did have some problems in testing and noticed that it hadn't been patched or updated since April. And when something like that happens, particularly with how quickly Android will update platforms, I had problems both on my Galaxy Tab and my Samsung S7, my cell phone. So, one of the things I look at pretty regularly is to see how often the app is updated, both the free version and the paid version. In this case, AnyDo is updated pretty regularly and patched pretty regularly. It's something that you don't typically think to look for, but when you go into the App Store, particularly in Google Play, you can see when the last patch date was, when the last update was. And it's really important to take a look at those because then you know how actively those developers are working on something.
Yeah, I used Wunderlist when it's been maybe a couple of years. When I had cross-platform people that I was working with on a team, and we were trying to create lists that we could share. It was easy to get to. You could get it on your mobile device. You could get it on the web, and it seemed to work fairly well. But I think we were mainly dealing with PC Mac environments that were what I was trying to cross over. A couple of the apps that I want to speak to today there's a whole slew of them from the Mac end. You can go into, if you want to drive the Lamborghini of to-do lists, then look at OmniFocus, and it costs about a Lamborghini too. I think the full pro version of it is $99 as an app. And then you have desktop versions and you have mobile versions and such that you need to buy. But, functionally what I need a list of things that I need to remember to do. And when I'm walking around and somebody says, you need to do this, I need to be able to get it on that list quickly. So I'm looking for multiple devices, sometimes multiple platforms, and the need to have be able to use it on not only my Surface Pro, but also on my MacBook. So, and on my phone and also on my watch if I need to look at what my list is on my watch. So I kind of need that functionality. It needs to be quick. It needs to be a list that I can go to and things that I can add to it quickly. So if it has Siri integration, great. So when Siri decides to work for me and recognizes my voice, just the quickness of having the list, so it's that task is on the list for me to take care of at some point. So if we go down from the Lamborghini and we go to the Cadillac, I think probably the best known and at least the best reviewed to-do list is, and task manager, I should call it that, is Things. And Things has a beautiful interface. The cost for you have different costs for different platforms or different versions. So for your Mac desktop or laptop, there is a $50 charge for that app. The iPad version of the app is $20, and the phone version of the app is $10. So you're looking at an investment in that ecosystem, but it does some really interesting things in terms of setting up things for today. If you just want to do and have task lists for today. Also, you can, of course, schedule them to show up in future days on your list. You can, there are some dream ideas that I have that I sort into someday or a list of anytime you can get to it. You can also create projects, which have been very helpful because you can share your project lists with other people via email, via Messenger, and other platforms that you have integrated with Things. And it has, of course, the availability of you can use Siri shortcuts to get objects on your Things list if you want to. But typically, I'm just typing it in either on my mobile device or in my laptop as it comes up. The paid version, well, these are all paid versions, but you can also embed documents. So if I have, review this article for a journal review, I can take a copy of that article and embed it directly in and have it through the to-do list, so I don't have to, through Things, so I don't have to run and find it somewhere in my email or other ways that I've gotten it. So it's a pretty robust, but it's not, with the OmniFocus, with the Lamborghini version, you've got a complete task manager and team manager, sort of color-coded all sorts of stuff. This is a much simpler system, but a robust system. And then for one that is truly cross-platform, the third that I would mention is Todoist. It's an app that has a free version, allows for syncing. There's a difference between the free version and the premium version. The premium version, whereas with Things comes as you pay that price and you've got that app. There's no subscription. It's yours. It syncs automatically. They have a free cloud service for you to sync your material with. With Todoist, if you want to use that app, again, very nice, a very nice app, has a lot of robustness, a little different in the sense that it has these kind of motivational things. It's, you set how many tasks do you want to shoot for each day. And so if you said, I have 3 things I want to get to do today, even though I have 10 things on my list, once you get the 3 done, you get points and you become gurus, task gurus, and they have different names and different levels. So there's that sort of internal motivation that goes on with Things. You can do this into both Things and also Todoist. You can schedule items, and you can also create projects in Todoist. Todoist is also cross-platform. So you can find it on Windows, you can find it on Android. I'm not sure it's in all versions of desktop and mobile computing for those different devices, for those different platforms, but it is really a nice little cross-platform app that you should look at. Probably similar from the way you describe it, Eric, as AnyDo.
Yeah, AnyDo.
AnyDo. Yeah. So I think it might be very similar to that. There's a variety of backgrounds and things that you can do with it. And I'm trying to look at my productivity level. I'm at the professional productivity level, according to my Todoist karma.
Impressive.
Yeah. Well, I got a ways to go.
Well, I one thing I like about Todoist, and I did take a look at it. It is much more project-based, and there is that earning system to help you kind of motivate. It does kick you those messages every once in a while to help encourage you. And it boasts some pretty big names. Apple, Starbucks, Google, MIT. You can go on their website and actually look at the different organizations who use Todoist. And it's really regularly updated. I think the last release was on November 5th or 6th, and us recording this now, it was only about a week ago. So it's really regularly updated and patched. But it does have that very project focus as well, right? So there's unlike Todoist, unlike AnyDo, Todoist is very focused on the project orientation, right? There's a lot more focus on that as opposed to individual tasks, I guess.
Yeah, and the difficulty in that for me is you have to have other people on board. So if I'm working on a research project and we're going to use an app like the ones that allow for project-based methods, it's great if the rest of your team's on board with it too, because that allows them to work. But if all you need is that checklist that says this is what I have to get done, and I can add things to it and I can take things off, you don't necessarily need to you don't need the Lamborghini. You don't need the Cadillac. You might just need the VW Bug.
Right. Like I said, still a great app with great features, and I think affordable enough. Every now and then they'll run a special too. You can get it for $20 a year, I think.
Yeah. We're going to put all these links to the apps on the podtalk.net website, so you can find the links to these apps instead of having to do search or play this back and figure out which ones we were talking about. So they'll be available for you to be able to search and scan for yourself.
Well, I think that's all we have for now. So in order for you to get involved, if you have a tech question, you want to try and figure out how to do something with technology, or just have an idea to share, you can email us at thepodtalknetwork@gmail.com, or you can actually call and leave us a message, and we'll play your recording on the podcast and try and get an answer for you. That number is 937-756-5140. So that's it for today's show. Thank you for listening, and thank you for subscribing to the Tech Savvy Professor podcast. You can find the podcast by searching iTunes for the Tech Savvy Professor. Look for us on Stitcher, TuneIn, and Google Play Music, as well as on Twitter at pod_network. As a reminder, we're part of the Pod Talk Network, and you can find all of the shows and links and information at the podtalk.net website, along with links to other great shows, including Grad School Deconstructed and the Faculty Meeting. From myself and my co-host, thanks for listening, and you're getting savvier by the minute.